Disclaimer, this is audio horror fiction. If darkness or the creatures it holds scares you, leave now. Still listening? Good, then let's begin. For the past 6 months, I have started to obsess over a little trail I pass by on the way to church every Sunday. I know it seems odd that someone would become so obsessed over a trail, but it was mostly the build-up of curiosity. It was far too small for a car to enter, and the trail was just a combination of brown dirt and large rocks. Another thing that interested me about the trail was the same 3 cars parked right in front of the entrance to it. They never moved from where they stood. I know it was a dumb idea, but I just had to check it out. Today I left an hour earlier for church. That would give me more than enough time to check out the trail and get to church on time. I parked behind the other cars. I took my phone, a pack of cigarettes, and my extra battery with me, and walked up to the trail. This may sound weird, but the ground looked to be a bit off. The dirt was gray with a bluish tint, and all of the rocks were perfectly white. As soon as I stepped onto the trail, I felt a rush of emotions. I was suddenly hit with the need to cry, scream, and laugh. At the same time, I felt the absolute need to run. Confused and fearful, I unwillingly ran further down the trail. I wanted to stop running, but it felt like my body was taken over. The trees started to surround me, but whenever I glanced down on the ground, I could see that I was still on the trail. By the time I came to a stop, there was only space for me and one other person to walk on the trail. I checked my phone, but my phone wouldn't catch any sort of signal. I turned around and tried to run back to where I came from, but I could barely move. After 3 steps, I couldn't struggle anymore. I got on my knees and tried to crawl, but I found myself laying on the ground only a couple of seconds later. Regret was the only thing I felt at that point. I started to yell at myself, slammed my head on the ground, but nothing made me feel better. The only thing I could do now was to keep walking. After a couple of minutes, I saw a person walking the same direction I was, but he was moving at a much slower speed. As I got closer, I realized how bad of a shape he was in. His back and legs were covered in small cuts and deep lacerations. I ran up to him and tried to ask if he needed help, but before I could finish my question, he grabbed me by the shirt and tried to throw me on the ground. It was easy to get out of his grip, and I jumped away from him. I tried to just walk away, but in my mind I saw the man lying on the ground with his head ripped off. I have never been a violent person, but the very thought filled me with joy. I shook my head and tried to take the thought out of my mind. The man kept walking toward me, but I ran off before he could even get close. Once I got far enough away, I checked my phone and saw that there was still 0 signal out here. The time read 13:34. That couldn't have been right. I got to the trail at around 9:30. I was scared. I didn't have a grip on time anymore. The trees kept feeling like they were starting to surround me. I don't know when I blacked out, but a man was kneeling beside me when I woke up. I tried to run away from him, but he just calmly stood by and asked if I needed any help getting out of here. He walked up to me, but I know he could still see I doubted him. With a calm and smooth voice, he said, "If I wanted to kill you, I would have done it while you were knocked the fuck out." He laughed a bit, and I felt my panic start to fade away. I don't know how, but before I knew it, I was filled with rage. How fucking dare he tease me like that? Who the fuck does he think he is? I started running after him, but he wrapped his arms around me and slapped me in the face. He yelled out, "Listen, this trail, I don't fucking know how or why, but it's going to bring out your emotions. Mainly anger. You can't leave if you kill someone. I've seen people try to leave. They're ripped to shreds. Not by anything, but by whatever the fuck is in the air. Get a hold of yourself. If you want to live, you have to focus on leaving." We walked deeper and deeper into the trail. The deeper we went, the worse it started to smell. I didn't look around. I already knew what surrounded us. While we walked, we talked about what he used to do. He was a police officer, and he had a wife and 3 kids. He asked me for what the date was, and after I told him, he slowly nodded his head. I could have sworn I've only been here for 2 weeks. I guess it's been 3 years now. I could see the tears building up in his eyes. But before they had a chance to drop, he wiped them away. After a couple of seconds, he reached out a hand and said, "The name is Gerald." I shook his hand and told him my name was Jake. As our formalities ended, I saw a guy walking in front of us. Gerald stuck an arm in front of me and walked forward. I followed closely behind him. As soon as Gerald got close enough, he punched the back of the man's head as hard as he could. The man fell on his knees and we started to run away from him. But the man quickly got up and started to chase after us. I looked back and almost threw up when I saw his face. His cheeks were completely missing. His teeth were black and it looked like his gums were rotting. Before I could take a better look, the man stopped running and we got away. We kept running for what seemed like hours. I wanted to give up, but then I saw it. There was a clearing in the forest. I looked over at Gerald and he nodded his head weakly. We stopped at the end of the woods and noticed that there were fewer trees than what I remembered. I asked him if he were going to go with me, but he looked at me with what seemed like far more regret than I felt on the trail. "You should go. Just remember to never come back in here again. It makes you into a different person." I love my family, but we came into the trail together. My wife thought it was a good idea. Before the first sunset, I killed my wife. I tried to resist as much as I could, but I blamed her for bringing us in. I don't want to talk about my 2 boys. I just can't. He started to sob and I walked up to comfort him, but with a scream he grabbed me by my shoulders and threw me out of the trail. I looked around and saw that I was back to where I began my trip. I walked to my car and drove home. It is now 3 in the morning, and I know I won't be able to go to sleep, so that's why I'm warning you all tonight. Please, do not wander into unknown trails. Thank you all so much for listening. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to help feed the Dark Machine. Please share with other fans of horror, and if you have a story that you would like for me to read, check the description below for details.